apologies. Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of the 2022 Virtual Island Summit. Thanks so much for joining this session. My name is Avia Leons, and I am the account manager here at Island Innovation. I'm based in the beautiful island of Trinidad and Tobago here in the Caribbean. Now, Island Innovation is a global network and creative industry helping advance innovation and drive sustainable change across island communities worldwide. Please visit islandinnovation.co to learn more about our network and our services. I'm very happy to be presenting this session entitled How Strong Indigenous Voices Can Solve Global Issues, which is co-organized with the Institute for Small Islands. I know that this is a struggle to preserve Indigenous practices and cultures in some cases, but being from the Caribbean, I've witnessed firsthand the erasure of some of our Indigenous culture, languages, and practices. So I'm really excited that Island Innovation can provide a platform for our incredible speakers to share their indispensable knowledge and thoughts on the global issues that we face. Before we begin, I invite you to use the chat function to introduce yourselves and where you're joining from, and make any comments during the session. A poll will appear now on your screen, so you can let us know where you're connecting from and the sector and industry you belong to. Human Islands are beautiful. Now, please make sure that you use the Q&A function for your questions, and we will do our best to make sure that we can address as many as possible. Now, I'd like to introduce you to our moderators today. Caroline Mayatobi, the director and founder of the Institute for Small Islands, Diana Fox, an anthropological expert of the Institute for Gender and Development Studies, and Andy Reid, a professor of law at the University of Denver. Please turn on your cameras and join me on the screen. Thank you once again, everyone, for being part of this year's Virtual Island Summit. And I will now hand it over to our moderator, Caroline.
Hello, welcome. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so grateful to Island Innovation for co-hosting with us. I'm so grateful to these wonderful speakers who are here today. I am just really excited for everything that we have prepared for you. I just want to, before I introduce the speakers, I just wanted to give a little context about Indigenous peoples, the Paris Agreement, the UNFCCC COP27 that's coming up, how it all works together, what the connections are. And of course, many of you know already, so I might be just preaching to the choir here. But for those who don't know, I just wanted to say that the Paris Agreement, the climate goals of the Paris Agreement will fail, pretty much, unless the rights of Indigenous peoples who protect rainforests are honored, according to a new report from WRI. The forest lands stewarded by Indigenous peoples and communities and coastal communities in countries such as the Caribbean, but also the Caribbean Basin, the Amazon Basin, and across the world, sequester about twice as much carbon as other lands. So to meet national goals, which are called NDCs, which most of you know, without protecting this land would require some pretty abrupt changes and lifestyle changes in forested countries. And if the rights of people in forest communities are not protected, there will be a failure to achieve the Paris goal of keeping global temperature rise above 1.5 degrees Celsius. Now, why is this? It's a pretty dramatic statement to make, but Indigenous peoples are by far the best rainforest custodians, with deforestation rates on their lands up to 50% lower than elsewhere. Their knowledge is important. Their knowledge is so important. They understand how to live close to the earth, which is something that we have let go in our modern quote unquote lifestyle. I remember a TED talk by Hindu Ibrahim, and she is a cartographer from Chad, an Indigenous woman who is taking her scientific knowledge of her community and applying it to technology, modern technology. And she's doing amazing things. And this was it was the cutest story where she's saying, you know, most people will wake up and look at the weather app. And she said all she has to do is ask her grandmother. And I thought that was just great because her grandmother would know, is it going to rain today? And not just is it going to rain today, is it going to rain for the rest of the year? How are the crops going to do? She knows this by looking at the land, looking at the animals, looking at the weather, she feels it in advance. And that is not from only her experience, that's from her ancestors before her. So the knowledge is important. And we are advocating that this knowledge is not only accepted by the scientific community, but respected as well, because this knowledge has been honed and perfected for thousands of years, for millennia, passed down from parents to child, from grandparents to grandchild. And we can get more into that. But what is also happening concurrently is that Indigenous peoples, environmental offenders, their homes are being destroyed. They are being assaulted in the Amazon, especially. They are being attacked. They are being murdered. An analysis by Frontline Defenders and Human Rights Defenders Memorial reported at least 358 murders of human rights activists globally in 2021. Of that total, nearly 60% were land, environment, or Indigenous rights defenders. The countries with the highest death total were in the Amazon basin. And advocates say that the figure is likely far higher as attacks on land and environment defenders in Africa often go unreported. And I would like to see attacks on environmental defenders in the Caribbean go unreported as well. So I want to welcome this wonderful group of people, and I hope that we can pay them the respect that they deserve. I hope that we can listen and share, and I hope that the future. Thank you very much. So I would like to invite, I'm going to not introduce everyone at the same time. I think what I'm going to do is as people come along, I will introduce everybody with their bio. But we do have today Cacique or Chief Kalan of the Jamaican Hummingbird Taino people, Caciqueina or Chieftainess Ronaldo of the Jamaican Hummingbird Taino people, Mama Kila Jaramogi of the Americans of Trinidad and Tobago, Cynthia Ellis Topsy, Ambassador at Large for the Garifuna Nation of Belize. We have Diana Fox from University of West Indies, and Andrew Reed, who is a eco-justice advocate, a lifelong eco-justice advocate, and a professor at University of Denver. And I will introduce them in detail before. So first I would like to invite, before I forgot, I'm Caroline Mayer. How could I forget? I'm so sorry. I'm so excited to introduce you to these speakers. My name is Caroline Mayer Toby, and I'm from the Institute for Small Islands. I'm founder and director of the Institute for Small Islands. We are focusing on the nexus of climate justice, Indigenous rights, small island rights, and moving forward to face the climate collapse. It's not even climate change anymore, it's climate collapse that's going on. And we take an interest in the most vulnerable at the face of climate change. And we want to hear those stories. So I invite you to join us at what is the address? smallislandsinstitute.org. Thank you very much. Now, if I can invite Mama G Gamaji, pardon me, to join us for a blessing. And I will introduce her fully later when she speaks. And Mamaji Ode. I'm so sorry. Last night my computer fell down and I lost everything. So I don't have her introduction, her bio right now, but I will get that for you. So thank you very much. And I open the floor to you, Mamaji.
Greetings to everyone. Yes, this is our white rum, or overproof white rum that we the Maroons use when we're doing our libation. Yang kung sasi, ashe. Yang kung to all our ancestors, ashe. And then I use water after that. To our blessings, to our omnipotent, supreme, Nyanki Pong, we say, come and drink with us. Spirit of our ancestors, come and drink with us. Numerous gods of our ancestors, come and drink with us. Rivers and mountains, come and drink with us. Trees, vegetation, and creeping ones, come and drink with us. Get and drink. We ask for long life and prosperity. Long life to man and woman. Long life to all. Long life to strangers among us. We ask for peace and tranquility. Ashe. We ask for long life and plenty. Do not let us see disgrace nor hungry. Ashe. Do not let our children die. Ashe. We ask for a good and productive result from our meeting. Ashe. Let it bear many fruits. Ashe. Blessings, 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 blessings. Ashe. Blessings. Ashe. Blessings. Blessings to all our ancestors. Ashe. Ashe. Give thanks. Give thanks. Peace be unto you.
Is a woman, a mother, a grandmother about the African diaspora, a spiritual breaker and a community builder rooted firmly in Maroon and Rastafari traditions. She tirelessly serves her people as priestess, healer, and curator, cultural curator. Gama Gloria Sims received the title of Gama, Paramount Queen, from the Okanisi Maroons of Suriname, the title of Tekina, teacher, and council member of the Yukayeke Yamaye Guani, Jamaican Hummingbird Taino tribe, and is the founder of the Maroon Indigenous Women's Circle. As Gama, Gloria continues to pursue her ultimate vision. She sees the restoration of the family as a must. Presently, she is taking steps towards the establishment of a women's museum as well as a traditional university that aligns with Indigenous ways of learning via the ethos. What life experience has taught to me, I will teach to those who want to learn. Thank you, thank you, thank you, Kamachi. I would like to now introduce Kasike Kalan, chief of the Jamaican Hummingbird Taino people. Robert Kalan Pearman is first and foremost a Bahike, a Taino medicine man, and was chosen and appointed Cacique or Taino chief for the Yamaye Guani, Jamaican Hummingbird Taino people. He now walks with the Taino name Nibronix Caiman. Cacique Nibronix Caiman is a member of Consejo de Medicina Ancestral Indígena Originaria del Abiyala, Council of Ancestral Indigenous Medicine of the Americas. Cacique Calan is the main organizer for the Caribbean region Peace and Dignity Journeys, which is an intertribal spiritual run connected to ancient prophecies of the Americas, and a member of Responsables Espirituales Originarios del Guirapoy, Kuntur, Quetzal, Aquila, y Warawao, with responsibility for maintaining traditional ceremonies in the Caribbean, and sits on the Jamaica Council of Indigenous Leaders. Welcome, Chief Kalan.
Usa Lukalida Yokuno. Good morning, my people. I will start in Wahiani, our language, Island Arawakan, and translate to English. This is our sacred call to the directions. This is our call for the medicine required for us to have a good meeting. For when we speak on behalf of those who came before us and those who will come after us. So in our hearts, we focus our attention starting on the east, the direction from where the sun rises. And we call, Wariko, Mautia Tihuel, Butikatiwa Kiritima Ako. From the winds of the east, we call upon that medicine of the Lord of Dawn, the chief of the realm from whence the sun comes to give us good vision. And Hankatu, which means in English, and so it is. We turn our intentions to the south. Wariko, Obonito, Busikatiwa, Buhuye. From the winds of the south, we call upon the medicine of our great spirit of waters to bring us healing. Healing as it is, which comes in the form of the turkey vulture, which we call the aura, which cleanses our lands, cleanses our spaces, which teaches us peace and serenity. And Hankatu. And so it is. We turn our hearts and our intentions to the west. Wariko Soraya, Koebe Makitari Wayama, Busikati wa Kiritima Okamatina Boyiria. From the winds of the west, we call upon the medicine of the ancestral realm, the chief of that realm, who guides our ancestors to the space of sweet waters, of sweet fruits. In our Island Arawakan language, Okama means to listen. And Okamatina, the word for understanding, comes from listening. So we ask today for us to listen to the guidance in our heart, the guidance from our ancestors. And Hankatu. Turn our hearts and our intentions to the north. Wariko, Waria, Siba Hagwa, Iguana Bonya, Busikatiwa Wahayona, Hayana, Wania, Eitahu, Eitani. From the winds of the north, we gather the medicine of the hummingbird, the medicine of knowledge, of wisdom acquired throughout the ages, which is at our disposal, which is at the heart of what we have to speak towards today, and to shift the shift that is necessary. And Hankatu. Our intentions to the earth below us. Wariko, Atabera, Hahomu Nikonye, Hahomun Ekakani. We give thanks to Mother Earth in her many ways, shapes, and forms. Pachamama, Atabera, Itibaka, Hubaba, for nurturing us, for giving us nourishment, food, and Hankatu. And finally, our intentions to the sky, to the heavens. Wariko, Yukahuba, Guama, Rokoti, Yayawa, Ture, Great Spirit, Creator. From the heavens, we give thanks for this day, this opportunity to connect with each other, heart to heart, in a good way. And Hankatu, and so it is.
That is very useful. Thank you so much. Thank you. I think that I am not too sure if I'm showing up properly here. There. I would like to invite first and foremost to speak Mama Akila. Mama Akila Jaramogi is a forester. I think you can't see me properly. Can you see me properly here? Let me just, you can?
That's great, Caroline.
Great. Mama Akila Jaramogi is a forester, an environmental consultant, a social entrepreneur, and a cultural activist. She is the co-founder and CEO of the Fontaines Reforestation Community Project in St. Anne's, Trinidad and Tobago. A proud American descendant, Ms. Jaramogi is the co-founder, past president, and CEO of the American Heritage Foundation. For over a decade, Akila Jaramogi and members of the American Heritage Foundation in Trinidad and Tobago have been championing the cause for recognition of Trinidad American Maroons at home, the Caribbean, and the world. She's also the co-founder and chair of the United Maroon Indigenous Peoples. Akila accorded the delegations of Maroons in the Caribbean and North America to attend the UN 18th Session Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues in 2019, and then also to the 21st session in 2022, which was this year. On Friday, 15th of March, 2019, Mama Akila was appointed the first American Maroon Paramount Chief by the Office of Gama of the Jamaican Maroons Nation. Jaramogi, in partnership with the academic working community, coordinated the Maroon Gathering and academic workshop in Dominica in November 2021. As an environmentalist, Akila was the recipient of Trinidad's highest humanitarian honor, the Hummingbird Gold Medal Award, on behalf of her organization, FARCP, Fontaines Community. She is also a trustee on the board of the Israelite Nature Center, ARIMA, and member and past chairperson of the Council of Presidents of the Environment, COPE. Mama Akila is also a member of the cabinet-appointed National Council for Sustainable Development, and her passion for ecological sustainability and nature is likely rooted in the work of her ancestors, living off the land in company villages. Akila Jaramogi, over the years, has received many awards and certificates, such as the American Medal of Merit, Certificate of Achievement, Semi-Maroon Historical Society, Honorary Peace Ambassador, World Peace Festival, Community Heroes Award, EMA Greenleaf Award, Women in Forestry Award, Women as Agent for Change Award, Champion of the Environment Award, and BP Amoco Leaders Award, and more. Mama Akila, welcome.
Greetings, greetings. I offer light and pour libation on behalf of my ancestors, and I give thanks for this moment. As we celebrate life and we celebrate people and we celebrate the environment, say Umi Tutu, Ona Tutu, Ile Tutu, Tutu Laroye, Tutu Ariku Babawa, cool head, cool path, cool meeting, cool love, cool house. This is what we ask for. As we continue to work in harmony with ourselves, work in harmony with the environment, being guided by the unseen forces, being guided by our ancestors, we give thanks. We give thanks for the organizers. We give thanks for everyone who's tuning here today. We give thanks for many blessings. We give thanks for the knowledge that we embrace so we as an Indigenous peoples can continue to do the work assigned to us. Sometimes we ask ourselves, I ask myself, who am I? And the answer is, I am land, water, and something else. Something which I must pass on. Something that binds me to those of yesterday, today, and tomorrow. I ask again, who am I? But I am nothing without the ancestors. I am nothing without them. When I arrived, I was in their hands. They were here to welcome me. When I leave, I shall be in their hands. They will lead my return. And this is what we are doing as Indigenous peoples, continuing to lead our path, but with the ancestors leading us. And I give thanks. I give thanks for every moment of life, celebrating earth, celebrating the river, celebrating the birds, celebrating nature, but most of all, celebrating the ancestors on whose shoulders we stand tall and proud. Ashe, Ashe, Ashe. Being asked to be part of this gathering, being asked to be part of this conversation was not without challenges. As I sat in front of my computer, electricity gone. But then I remember how resilient we are as a people. I quickly placed myself in a natural environment where I get my natural light and my backup on my phone, and nothing to deter me from being part of this conversation. As I represent my community, my Indigenous community, my American community on this conversation, how Indigenous voice can solve global problems. I look back at the many events and many requests over the years to be a voice for my people, to be a voice for the voiceless when it comes to ecological justice. And I never say no. I see myself in different capacities as earth, water woman, woman of the hills, the healer of the forest, or Akila the forest healer, and many more names I would get over the years, over 40 years of caring for the environment and people. And it's a part that I choose. And let me say it, a path that chooses me more than what I choose. And I see how important our voices are in terms of solving global issues. See myself at a slow food gathering in Italy, talking about indigenous seeds and food sovereignty and our way of life here, our indigenous way of life, how we can preserve it. And then I see myself at Civicus in Fiji, planting mangroves, looking at climate change issues and talking to an audience that is just waiting to hear what we as Indigenous people do in Trinidad and around the Caribbean. And I move on again to gender and climate change conversations around the Caribbean. And the way our voices, the way our Indigenous voices has impact, on issues, the way we have shared our knowledge that was passed on from our ancestors. All I can say is Modupe, Modupe, Modupe. Thanks to our ancestors. Thanks for paving the way. Thanks for helping us to live a life and stay within a path that we can pass on to the next generation. But most of all, thanks for being the people that we are right now that can influence change because of our lifestyle. We live the change, So again, this opportunity to share with you what we have done and how we have influenced change, how we have helped solve situations is very, very important. As I give thanks to my Gaman, Mama G, a living example, and my Chief Kalan, where we make medicine our food and food our medicine to deal with the ongoing, issues of climate, situations where unwanted pests and diseases, unknown pests and diseases surround us, and we are able to survive it using our traditional ways of healing, using our traditional knowledge and sharing with others. So I say thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mama Kila. That was awesome. I would like to invite Cynthia Ellis Topsy to speak, and I'm very aware of time. Don't worry, James. Cynthia Ellis Topsy is Ambassador at Large for the Garifuna Nation of Belize, and she treasures herself with being a mother of 5 children and 17 grandchildren. Her activism has been grounded on internationally breaking cycles for present and future generations. And delivered by a Maya midwife, she captures the essence of Garifuna indigeneity. She's Ambassador at Large, a cultural ambassador for Belize, and an environmental activist in rainforest preservation. And she addresses climate change issues from the Indigenous perspective, including gardening and milpa cycle regeneration for food sovereignty. And she's also very big on repatriation of Garifuna's treasures and the global engagement of Indigenous peoples on these matters. Welcome, Cynthia.
Okay, Buiti Benafi, good morning. It is an honor and a privilege to be here, and I'm very humbled, especially in this historical moment where we are in the midst of a shift of Indigenous people around the world. We know that the change is here, and my Garifuna name is Lobafu Isiene, which is unconditional love and stepping into the uniqueness and the power and the love that is already transforming not only ourselves, but the earth globally. As a Garifuna woman, I want to give thanks to all of you who are on this platform. And I want to remember those women who came before us. We know the way back historical ones, like Nani of the Maroons and Baroda, and many, many names that we need to unpack and to uncover, because these are the women on whose shoulders we stand, and even our sisters, brothers in the United States, Harriet Tubman, who gave us the Underground Railroad, which wraps around the world. So in the spirit of this resilience and this tenacity, I want to give thanks. Sereme Niebo, Shulu Hadani. In Garifuna, that means the time has come. The time is now, where I want to give thanks to some women from the Caribbean islands. I remember this morning, Ira Hector, who was pioneer in the 80s of Women for Caribbean Liberation. And we had met women around the Caribbean after the atrocity of Grenada had taken place. I want to remember Jackie Kreft, who had left us through the University of the West Indies. She had been working with the Women and Development Unit, headed by Peggy Antrobus at the time. And Jackie said to us, sisters, I will not be able to remain with you because I am going to liberate my country. And a couple of years later, Jackie was one of the people who was slaughtered in open forum in Grenada. I want to remember Earlene Horn and many, many more sisters like us who have given our lives for our people through unconditional love. And I want to say, of that circle of women in conversation, I am one of the few left alive in the physical form. And for this, I carry those spirits with me. I want to remember Regina Martinez, a mother of 14 children, who left these children here in Belize, who are Garifuna. I have been walking up and down the highways and byways of Belize, celebrating and acclaiming these unsung heroes and heroines who have not had necessarily the mechanism or the capacity to have their voice heard and to have that space in these spaces where we are the ones who we have been waiting for to break this cycle of environmental oppression and assault that we have been experiencing in our communities. I want to give thanks to the Maya midwife who delivered me in August Pine Ridge, where there's a convergence. There was a convergence and there is a convergence between the Garifuna and the Maya people, where here in Belize, we have 2,000 Maya sites and temples in the country, akin to what is in Africa. And in the rest of Central America, we have many. I want to ask and have a call and a cry out that as my sisters and brothers are bringing and appreciating Indigenous knowledge and practice, that we already have our university. We already have our way of being. So our work now is to acclaim and to go into the detailing in the forest ourselves of who are the healers, who are the forest keepers, who know about the plants for construction, for food, for medicine, and for aesthetics. I want to give thanks to those institutions, even though they have been structured according to the colonial way of being, but have collaborated and have supported us. I want to give thanks to the United Nations that declared the Garifuna people, the Garifuna nation, as a masterpiece culture for humanity. And thanks to the Marinage spirit and gatherings where we have hooked each other, held each other, braced each other to change this narrative, to have our voices heard loud and clear around the world against the oppression of building gas station in Saint Bite, close to one of our sacred temples. I want to give thanks to the African diaspora movement, which supports and declares the Garifuna nation as a nation around the world, where we are not asking permission for sovereignty. We are not asking for recognition to be defined by anyone. We are declaring that we are the ones we have been waiting for. I want to give thanks to Sister Tessa, who on her visit to a museum in the United Kingdom discovered the artifact, the pipe of our Excellency Chatouillet. And we are now in conversation right now to have that repatriated, returned to the source. And that is one of the calls as we move forward, that we are going to develop and to affirm our way of being, of returning our artifacts, return what has been stolen, but first return to ourselves, that we are the ones who declare and define who we are, that this abuse of our brothers and sisters in Honduras, where every day our people are being slaughtered, because in the spirit of the Garifuna, we refuse that our sacred lands will be assaulted or taken away. And yes, the Garifuna nation is going to take the government of Belize to court in terms of environmental abuses that are taking place in our communities, just as the Maya won the land rights case at the Caribbean Court of Justice, where they are acclaiming, we as Indigenous people are acclaiming lands. And finally, I want to give thanks to the children unborn and the children who are born and those generations, that as a grandmother, I owe it to my 17 grandchildren to change the narrative in a succession strategy for them, where we are the ones we have been waiting for. My grandchildren are already asking me questions about what it means to be ambassador at large for the Garifuna Nation. What it means is that wherever our feet tread around the world, we claim and reclaim, we possess and repossess what has been stolen. So we are the ones. On this day, I want to thank all of you as we chart a path, because everything is changed right now. It's not an if, but, nor a maybe. So I'm giving thanks for environmental justice. And I want to offer to you, my brothers and sisters, this space of Belize and Central America, where we have the secrets of the rainforest through the Maya sites and monuments, sacred spaces where people from all over the world who don't look like you and I come and study us and study our secrets. This is my offer to you on behalf of the Garifuna people and the indigenous people. We give thanks. Ashe, Itarala.
Ashe, thank you, Cynthia. I would like to invite Mama G to speak. Before I do, I just want to say that we are starting to answer questions in the chat. Dr. Diana Fox is answering, and we will hear from both Andy Reid and Diana Fox to answer a lot of the questions that you have. And so please feel free to ask, put them in the chat. We really, really are loving these comments. Please, Mama G, the floor is yours.
Yes, give thanks. Greetings again. This is Mama G. Yes, give thanks for my sisters, them blazing the trail, you know, and the fire, you know, we keep it burning from time to time. I've been here as our indigenous woman on the ground, a maroon, one that uphold Rastafari in faith at the same time, a Taino by blood, which my great grandmother is, and all the other things, you know, Congolese, which we have the Congolese retention here with the Kumina people. Yes, our town has Congolese people as well. We had Congolese maroon that was here as well. Here in Jamaica, I'm here doing all that I can, you know, as a grandmother. I started out early when my children were still in school, and it was kind of very hard giving up corporate work and all these things as a single mother to go through with this. But I made a decision without even thinking about it. And I'm on this trail for a couple of years now. Yes, most of you would say the best of my years was on this trail. I can't say how it all happened, but I released every other work I had to do, you know, go back to the university without any money for our sponsorship for social work. When the work came upon me and I realized I have to deal with my people, they start coming to me for all kind of assistance. So I went to the university and demand from them training, because my people, I needed to take back to my people. They have me the whole day there, sending me here and there. And I persist, and in the evening they said they can't believe I was still standing outside of the door of the office. And so they said, why you don't go home and come back to class in the morning? You know, it took me a while to realize they really admitted me. Eventually, they end up, I say they end up paying me, because I was the only student when I left that they called back in the office to give a check of money that I had overpaid, you know, in the end, you know. And since then, I have not released this fire that is burning in my belly of and what I have to do following in the footsteps of my ancestors. It has been a long and a tedious journey coming up off the rough side of the mountain with this, but I still don't give up at this age and in this time. I, as the years goes, I feel the fire burning more as I look at my people and see what is happening. You know, I faced many kind of fires, you know, even in this time, you know, when I was moved to say, you know, when I see this reproach upon my people of what they said the Maroon has done in ages to their own people. And when I look at the treaty that the British had set, I sometimes look at it and I said this is was like a Halloween, a trick and treat thing, you know. And so it become that kind of document that divide our people from the African community, the rest of African community, and it lay heavy upon me, you know. And I said, you know, if you have your grandparents and they passed away with a good name, but then they didn't pay a debt that they owe, you know, I think it is good that I can stand up in the nobility that I know, with royal blood running through my vein, and repay that debt by saying to my own people, if we have done this wrong, then we are sorry. It caused a lot of fire on my tail, but I continue going because I know as time goes by, time will tell, you know. Our indigenous culture here in Jamaica is at a threat. When we look at how it has been looked upon, even though there are times when we are the most needed and the most important one in the country, when it comes to cultural time, when it comes to independence and emancipation, then the Maroons are needed and the indigenous people, Rastafari, and they are needed at the time. But otherwise, we are pushed aside sometimes, you know, marginalized, as if we are not important, you know. And when you look at the trauma that we have been through in slavery, those that continue on this plantation, and even us who run away from the plantation to the hills, as human being, when you know what was happening on the plantation, you still live in fear. The trauma of it affect you indirectly at the same time. And so there's a trauma that our people has inherited through many generations. And today, when you look at the rate of the crime and the violence in our country, you know that this is coming from the trauma. Sometimes I look at the crime and violence and the type of crimes that I see happening amongst our own people, amongst their own brothers and sisters, their own people in their neighborhood. I said, no, something is wrong. There's either there's a social a mental retardation in our people, the way they're treating each other, the way they're treating themselves, you know. And our voice is not being heard. Our way of doing things is not being recognized, even in those areas, you know, of how to help to address these kind of issues, you know. What it takes more than just the security force to get to our people. You know, sometimes I say I will sit on the sidewalk sometimes to reason with the youths. You know, and there's a lot of talking about the youths. There's a lot of talking of what they are and what they shouldn't do, but there's not. I walk away sometimes with tears falling out of my eyes when I sit down sometime on the street side and reason with the youths and hear what they have to say. And I say, surely these people need a mother figure. They need, this is why I take on the job that I am now, given full responsibility, whether I like it, whether I am ready for it, whether I am prepared to do it or not. It was given unto me because I step out there with a passion in my heart when I see. I remember days walking on the street. I remember once there was some shooting up in Mountain View and I was in Kingston. And I didn't have any bus fare. I was walking from one area to the other and was hurrying to get home because of what was happening. The place was dead like like it was like 3 o'clock in the morning. It was like about 8 going to 9, but everybody was inside. And I come up on a set of youth sitting on a bridge. And when I passed them, they said, Empress, come and give me some talk now. And I said, which talk? No, you know, stay a place I run. I go home and get myself off the street. And when I walk away, like something stopped me in the road and said, look back and said, these are the same youths. What you're running from and running away from to get home safely is the same youths that has been denied. Nobody's listening to them. Why they are behaving the way they are. Stop and reason with them. And I turned back. And they started to watch me walking back to them. And I said to them, you know, I can't deny you, know. Even though I want to get home because I don't know what's happening up the road. But I can't deny you, know. And I stopped and I started to talk to them about Marcus Garvey. I started to talk to them about His Majesty. I said, His Majesty, you could say he was an orphan. His mother passed. His father passed away. But he wasn't from a family that his father was a king sitting on a throne. But he become that King of Kings because of who he know he is from inside. And I'm saying today you might be in a position that you might not have family, that you might be going through some hardness, but look into yourself and tell yourself that you are, and you are a royal one, and you're supposed to be here on earth. And when I finished talking to them, I walk away crying because of their response, because of how I see. I actually see their eyes like life was coming back in their eyes, and I said, wow, the judicial system is not good enough. And that's what pushed me to want to start a university like that. You know, to want to start a museum to show great Jamaican women, to show great African women what they have done, because I think there is not enough teaching, not enough education, not enough visual for her and to know what they are supposed to be doing in this time. A lot is going on. The government is doing what they are doing, but they're still not reaching the one that is supposed to reach. So I spend my time like that, and I'm very concerned with the youth in the street right now. I know I can be out there more, you know, if given the chance. As many times I ask for these chances, you know, I ask for this chance. I say, give me the chance, give me the resource to go and speak to these youth long before things reach to this. Me say, let me go. I know I can do it. I've done it already. I've done it with few. Let me go and talk to the people. You know, as a trained social worker, there's no ears for voices like us, because they think because we don't come with a long piece of paper or some articulates, whatever they want to call it within the English term, they don't think we can do it, but we know we can do it. We have been there, we have done that, we have lived through this. We know how to do it. We know how to reach our people, you know, but our voices is not being heard. We are not being listened to, you know, with all the experience. Experience is what teach you knowledge, not book. Experience, the liberty to be around your people, to see what they're going through, to know what to apply to them, to make them a better person, you know. So when I look at many of what the source that they take to address crime and violence, I said there's a terrible trauma and mental illness in Jamaica by these crime and violences like that. And yet nobody is listening to us. You know, there's no chance for us to apply these experience that we have learned to our own people, you know. And it make you cry inside. It make you spend many sleepless nights, you know. Because I'm concerned about the youths. I'm concerned in what is happening out there. I've spoken to many of them. I've seen how they respond to me. And I know that with more help, we could do better. We could cut down the crime and violence. I personally grew up in a domestic violent home. I know it as a child. And I also know how to address it. You know, I've been through the Women's Bureau. I've used my hands-on as a therapy, because I do arts, but I mainly use it as a therapy, you know. And the finished goods can be sold, but it's not the finished goods is my main aim many times. It's the healing essence of creativity. That is my drive. And so I want to present these things to the people. But we are so marginalized. Even when they recognize us, there's no acknowledgement and there's no acceptance for us in the society. When you look at the many diseases, there's so much herbs, there's so much knowledge based around these things that we can do even in COVID. There's many things that we done to help within our community to make certain that it did not take effect. The things the spirit teach us what to create, how to apply his medicine in whatever way to help this situation. And it's time now. It is time for our voice to be heard. It is time because right now we are in the mood of action, you know, because actions speak louder than words, and we are in the mood of action. The talking is over now, and we are ready to rise up and move and step out there and do what we have to do within the society, especially we as Indigenous women. We say enough is enough.
Oh, Shay. Powerful. Thank you. In terms of time, people stand up. Is that possible, or would that break up what?
We are losing you a little bit. Could you repeat that?
Break up.
Losing. Could you repeat that?
Diana, can you speak for me? Or Jake?
I can't. I'm not sure what you're trying to say. Are you trying to introduce the next speaker?
Well, yes. I wanted to introduce Cacique Calan and Cacicaina Ronalda. Is it possible
It's
that we
clear
can
now.
speak together, just in the interest of time, because we would love to bring everybody to, or would that ruin your presentation? Because if that's the case, then I would prefer to hear you guys rather than have a conversation after. You tell me what you would prefer. Cacique Calan?
Oh, me? Yeah, I can share. I mean, a lot of what I'd say first off is, you know, I'd thank all of our great speakers and presenters that have gone before me, all of the wisdom and knowledge that they share as elders, as teachers, as those connected to the earth, and the teachings I have and the insight that I have. When asked about this, how does the indigenous knowledge and the help with the global issues that we have today? I remember the first discussion I was invited to be a part of, talking about sustainable development goals. And the shock that I felt to know that, you know, a goal that world leaders was looking on for 2030 is life above land, is life in water. You know, these are things that for indigenous people, that was not a goal, that is a part of life, is a part of ceremony, is a part of who we are. Everything that we do, there's an interconnectiveness. And our moderator, Caroline, spoke about that earlier. And that was what, you know, my intention was to speak about here today. We as indigenous people have been grown up to understand that we are part of the environment. We don't pay attention to imaginary lines created by colonizers or cartographers. We're not looking for the separation between us and those around us and other species or anything else in the environment. We pay strong attention to our teachings, our creation stories, and our narratives. We see the environment, we see the stone kind and the animal kind and the plant kind as relatives, because just like other religious groups and cultures, our creation story speaks to us the fact that all of these things were created before mankind. So if they were here before us, there's knowledge in them, and there are things we can learn from observing them and the cycles. We had storms passing through the Caribbean, and some still, you know, we're still experiencing some of that. And we could tell because we saw the ants going on their migration path. We understood that that means that there's going to be some flooding and that rain was going to come. These are signs and things that are perceivable, that we are aware of and we pay attention to. Right now, since September 22nd until September 28th, our Yame Taino community is in ceremony. Why are we in ceremony? Because there's a shift taking place. September 22nd, some know it as the equinox. We know it as Itiba Kahu Baba Areto. And again, it connects to one of our myths. Itiba Kahu Baba is a mother that gives birth to quadruplets, 4 children. And these 4 children spread out to the cardinal directions, east, south, west, north, the directions that we're calling in the beginning. And it is believed that all of the people of humanity stem from these 4. And that mother who passed away in childbirth returned to the earth. And we see in this way, we are all connected. So our mind being, using the recent pandemic as an example, would not have been that there's an issue in China and there's a Chinese virus. It is one of our relatives, one of our cousins, is a term that we use a lot. One of our cousins has an issue, and how can we support our cousin? Because we are all on this vessel together. We're all going through these things together. So the realization that contemporary society is having now about climate change is things that we have in our midst, in our stories. There are times of flood, there are times of abundance, there are periods and cycles that this planet goes through. And we have that knowledge and that understanding to pay attention to the science, to understand what it is to do when, and to prepare for it, right? So I believe that this disconnect that has taken place with us trying to force our narrative, trying to force our way on our plants, on our animals and the environment, trying to create systems for economic gain, trying to drain our environment of the minerals and the materials without foresight for the future generation is where the issues come from. Because the indigenous principles are based on the next 7 generations. And I guess with that, I will hand over to Kasikeyani Ronaldo, Chieftainess, to share her thoughts and her insights and her views on how indigenous people can help, not just help, but solve the global issues that we're having today.
Before Kasikaina Ronaldo speaks, may I introduce you, please? I'm so sorry I did not do that before.
Sure.
Ronaldo is foremost a lover of all things food and takes joy in sharing her ancestral food knowledge. She's a food and lifestyle coach, a certified personal nutritional advisor, and a Reiki level 1 practitioner and a home educator. Her interests are Indigenous home education, creating simple food security and food sovereignty structures for our people, and educating how we can sustainably live with our land. Kasikaina Ronaldo is the founder of Revolution of Food in Jamaica, return to our ancestral teachings on food and medicine. Embodying her Taino name, Kaiko Tekina, island food teacher, she dedicates her time to the development and well-being for present and future generations based on the teachings of those whose shoulders we stand upon. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It is a pleasure to be here among elders who have so much wisdom at their fingertips. And I believe it's an honor and a blessing to be able to hear those words in a time like this now, And from that perspective, I want to get into the topic of the home, because there's so much solution that can be found at home to a lot of the global problems that we're experiencing today. And it may not be seen from that perspective yet, but just give me 2 minutes so that I am able to share with you why I see it from that perspective. We start learning from the home. We start learning from the womb. The womb is our first home. And when we come out, it is our job as parents to guide the young ones on how we interface with everybody, the world, the environment. I'm a homeschooling mom, but I'll use the term home education. And I made that choice because from my perspective, what I have seen is that there is a lack of Indigenous cultural knowledge that is being taught in schools. And as such, I want to have the opportunity to equip my daughter on how she can work with the environment to create sustainable systems that 7 generations from now, the earth will still be here for her. And I'll just share with you from that space of the home education. I will teach her the medicines of the land. I will teach her how the food interact with our bodies. I teach her how you can preserve the food for a longer time without using modern technologies. And these are indigenous, these are our own indigenous cultural ways. Now, if I'm able to do that, imagine a group of other persons from different countries, different areas, different communities coming together and sharing that same indigenous cultural knowledge. We'll be looking at creating sustainable ways. A lot of times we don't believe that starting from the younger generation will help to solve problems that can transfer itself into future generations. Food security, food sovereignty, climate justice, global warming, it begins at home. Is it possible that we can teach our children how to interact? If you're going to pick something, if you're going to pick a fruit, the fruit has to be ripe. The fruit has to be ready. And nature shows us how the fruit is ready. If we're teaching our children, we're educating our children how to work with the trees, the land. Certain trees we know we don't cut because why? The tree roots help to form the foundation of our land. So it deals with land slippage. It deals with when the hurricane comes. Kasike Kalan spoke towards, the way how we interact with the hurricane, that we've been in ceremony. We commune with our environment. And if we start teaching our children how to do that, we'll be able to create a sustainable way in terms of food, in terms of dealing with poverty, in terms of dealing with clean water and clean air, because we'll be equipping our children with tools to deal with these things, and not just to deal, but to find sustainable and creative ways in terms of preserving it. When we look at how nature tells us when things are ready, for instance, every time the atmosphere will change and, there's flu season, one of the things that I've noticed is that we start getting fruits that are rich in vitamin C. Cherries, citrus season, guava, passion fruit, those plants are ready, which means that nature has already prepared us. Nature has given us the solution when it comes to the illnesses. But if we teach our children that we don't cut down these trees, and if we're going to cut them down because it is something that we have to, we can replant them somewhere else. It is not to lose the value of what the tree brings, but we can transfer that, we can adapt and become flexible with nature. Nature provides us avenues at every point to be able to adapt to the changing that is happening, because I'm pretty sure that what is happening with the climate right now, it didn't just happen now. Our ancestors would have seen these things coming and would have made preparations and would have been adapted creative ways in preserving their land, in preserving their medicine, and in preserving their food. So I take this opportunity right now to share some of these small things. And again, as I say, it starts in the home. And as such, we can create a home education bank right across the diaspora, right across the islands. Whatever is medicines for you, we can create a herbal medicine bank, because I remember there is an example of cassava that was taken to Nigeria, and a lot of people were killed off through because of the cyanide that is in the cassava. But what happened if we in the Caribbean, we had been exchanging information, a lot of lives could have been saved. And all of these sustainable ideas, and they're very simple, can start in the home. We have to teach our generations. We have to start with the younger generations, because that information, that type of education will transfer itself we in our community. We look at doing things to last for the next 7 generations. And if each one of the successive generation thinks like that, it would be really good to be able to see that. So I thank you so much for this opportunity.
Oh, that was so wonderful. Thank you.
Ahom.
I'd like to invite and Diana to speak minutes. Just have a little bit of and we'll invite a conversation. So yeah.
Andy, is there anything that you would like to share in a minute or two? I think we should open it up to the panelists and have the panelists share any thoughts that have emerged from this conversation.
I can make a few comments real quickly. Some of my comments are on the question and answers responses, so you might look there so I don't repeat myself. We don't have much time. And I certainly don't want to take up your time. Greetings to everybody. I think they're up to 100 participants, and I think what this panel demonstrates is a solution. I'm a human rights attorney. I've been involved in social justice struggles for over 4 decades, and it's the unity that you get from these. It's the unifying of small island people from all over the world. I see there are people from Africa and from the UK, from Scotland, that as well as all of the islands of the Caribbean, and I'm assuming we have some Pacific Islanders here as well, Puerto Rico. That's your strength. And I'm speaking as a lawyer from the law. Now, there have been a lot of questions asked about how you implement your customs, which in the law is called customary law. And there's a developing area of law, and it's in the answers to the question, so I won't go into it, and anyone can contact me. I'm happy to work with you on how to develop this and provide you with the legal resources for that. But there's a growing global movement to recognize customary law, the law of indigenous peoples, as an alternative to the Western way. The Western way is very materialistic and has resulted in the destruction of the earth through the exploitation and the exhaustion of Mother Earth. And so there's a new body of law, and speaking as a lawyer, that the global community is pulling from indigenous communities. It's called customary law. It's being recognized on an equal level of that as Western law. So if you put the energy into it to discover your laws, which are your customs and traditions, your songs, your stories, your drumming, your art, all of those things are based on your spirituality. So we have a new area, it's called Platonic law. It's laws based on a spiritual relationship between humans as part of the environment and Mother Earth, Uchimaka. And so that's all I want to contribute at this point, that it's an exciting period, it's a crisis, but the global community, particularly Western communities, recognizing the value and the resources of indigenous communities providing a way out. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Andy. Diana, do you want to say anything? I know you're very about time, but I think we have about 15 minutes left. So if you just want to say 3 minutes, that would be perfectly welcome.
Oh, okay, sure. Hi, everybody. I'm a professor of anthropology, a decolonial feminist activist, and currently I'm assuming a position as university director at the Institute for Gender and Development Studies at the University of the West Indies, where we will use that platform and continue to use that platform to organize across space, to build awareness, knowledge, to conduct research that uncovers suppressed indigenous knowledges. And in response to a question that was in the chat, what do we do in the face of pharmaceutical companies that are trying to take over indigenous healing ways? I believe that it's important to find, as Gama Mamaji talks about, sovereignty in indigenous knowledge, to patent and to use the legal processes to protect your knowledge, and to to ensure that those knowledges are passed down in the school systems, that your languages are protected. All of these actions are taking place through multiple forums. These kinds of panels that allow us to interact across borders are crucial for building awareness and seeing that there are people all over the world from different corners who have shared values and shared goals, and they can be connected into social movement activism. Grassroots activism is a proven way of bringing attention to political leaders, to push them to change laws. Power does not concede itself. It needs an ongoing, loud, persistent voice that challenges it and in its pockets. Because currently corporatization is the contemporary colonial power. So I think that if we can put our emails in the chat so that people can reach out to us, and we can build our ongoing connections that we've started here in this discussion. So folks on the panel, if you want to put your emails in the chat, that would be fantastic, and people can reach out to you.
I'd also include that there is a body of law, I'm putting this in the answer to the question as well, that protects what they call the intellectual property. I hate that word, but the intellectual property of Indigenous peoples. And you'll see that in the UN Declaration of the Rights of Indigenous Peoples. That's a good starting point if you want to work on this, is to protect your communities, is start with the UN DRIP. And there's specific provisions of protecting the culture and the property, which has historically been subject to the theft of Western Europe and the Western society. So that's one place to look for that. Thank you.
I'd like to share briefly. I know one of the things that people like to ask is how can they support Indigenous communities? And in the scenario of the pharmaceuticals, there's also a way that the person purchasing these things can support to. It's to ask questions, right? It's to be conscious consumers. If there are products that you suspect are connected to Indigenous communities, if you notice that franchises or businesses are using Indigenous peoples as mascots, it's the question, how is this benefiting the community? What kind of image is this creating for the community? And supporting the causes that are out there by the Indigenous people, started by Indigenous people. This panel shows that we have wisdom keepers. We have knowledge in our communities, and a lot of times there are those who are educated in a specific way by the academic system that they believe they're helping us, but what they're doing is they're locking us out of spaces and they're not allowing us to speak up for ourselves. So when you have an opportunity, when you have a platform, invite. We're going to be putting our information into the chat. Any of you that are here that have forums that you can open for Indigenous people to speak for themselves, to speak about their culture, to share about their history, to share about their wisdom, to share about what is going on in their communities. Gamang Mamaji touched briefly, because this could be a seminar for a week. We haven't touched on the mental aspect of it. We haven't touched on a lot of the healing aspect of it. And the whole point of it is that is why we need spaces to speak. That is why universities should be looking for Indigenous people to teach about healing and wellness from an Indigenous perspective. So how you can support us out there is to be conscious in what you're doing. Is to be conscious in the brands that you support, business, right? And to ensure when you hear someone come up with a practice and they're saying that, they learned this from these Indigenous people, who is the elder? Who is the community? Who is it that is benefiting from these things? And try to be conscious in what we're doing. So that's the snippet that I'd share for those out there. The information will be shared where Yukaiki Yame Wani, there's the Garifuna Nation, there's the United Maroon Indigenous Peoples, there is Revolution of Food in Jamaica, there's the Maroon Indigenous Women's Circle, just a name of few that you can look into and try to support. Hahom for us means thank you.
Hello, I just wanted to comment. This is Luba for Iseni. My grandchildren to the back, but anyway, for me, one of the most important things is the capacity building of our people on the ground. I am one of the boots on the ground people, and what Brother Kasik said about people speaking on our behalf. I think there's a balance to it because these people who are in position are able to open doors that we might not be able to go through. For example, agencies like the United Nations, I found our delegation in a position where we were navigating systems and structures that require bracing and support. The final point I want to make for now is the holding of ourselves and our institutions accountable. We have University of the West Indies and several local universities in the region, which I think we should be having dialogue with them and holding them accountable for helping to brace and equip us. It is a horror for me here in Belize to experience hundreds and hundreds of researchers coming from around the world that are not from the Caribbean, nor from our like-minded people. So I think it would be a beautiful session to just focus on taking stock of ourselves, taking stocks of our institution, taking stock of those who have been part of facilitating the status quo, so to speak. And there are resources available that we need to know how to access, to equip and affirm our people, and have these universities that are coming in and taking away the knowledge. What are prototypes or templates of how we can change this way of engaging with them? And our universities have been too quiet, too unengaged. So that's my challenge to all of us, including those who are scholars and those who are researchers. We need everyone to be a part of this conversation. Thank you.
I would just like to add to this, looking at our young people, looking at the youths in our Indigenous communities, and the type of education that our children are exposed to, especially when they go to the public system. We need more schools that, support us and the type of education that we want to educate our children with. We need more museums, as Namachi was talking about. We need things that will truly represent us and keep, our history and culture safe for our children to inherit, because I am seeing this dying along the way in some countries because the children are forced to, embrace some teachings that doesn't really help them in life. So again, for me at Fonsuman, as we continue to work with children in the forest, we want to see more schools. We talk about land security as well, the rights to land, where our Indigenous peoples can continue to plant the land, grow their own food, grow their own medicine, have more wellness centers and birthing centers, so we can showcase what the knowledge and talent that has been passed on to us, and not be stifled in a corner and feel like there's not enough space for us. So this is something I want to see within our Indigenous people's community, more wellness center, birthing centers, the traditional way, so we can see growth and development for our Indigenous peoples. And I say thanks for this opportunity as we continue to be an example, living the example, taking care of the land and being custodians of our natural environment. But again, we have challenges that we need to be addressed. And I hope that more conversations like this will happen where we can highlight some of these challenges and get redressed through them. Thank you.
If there's anybody who wants to speak, I think we have about 6 more minutes, and then I will just wrap up with thanks. Anybody? Okay.
Just quickly, Christopher has mentioned sustainability education and how that is being combined with Indigenous populations. Knowledge systems. There's these hybrid systems that are developing all over the place, and from Native Alaska globally. That are developing globally.
Mike, can everybody turn off them, Diana?
Yeah,
Gamma, can you turn off your mic? Can you mute? Okay.
yeah.
Can you mute it a bit? Okay, it's all right. Thank you, Diana. I want to wrap up.
Yeah, I was just saying that I want to see this trauma legacy. I would like to see the legacy of.
Please continue.
Yeah, I was saying that I would like to see the legacy of trauma being addressed here in Jamaica, and not just crime and violence and police running down a man or a man running down the police with gun, but they address the trauma that our people have, because otherwise the way it is dealt with is genocide, you know?
Thank you. That is a powerful point, Gamma. I just wanted to wrap up. I want to thank everybody, every panelist for your wonderful, powerful, goosebump raising, paw raising contribution. I'm looking at these comments and I think it was just a breath of fresh air to hear these stories, hear these perspectives, hear that people feel this way, you know, and that we really, really strongly believe that this is the way of the future. I believe that this is the way of the future. And I think in the face of climate collapse that we all need to embrace these knowledges, these traditional Indigenous knowledges as we go forward. And I would like to thank Island Innovation for joining with the Institute to support and amplify these voices. And I just want to give a round of applause to James for, I mean, wow, the work that you do for this region is just fantastic. So I just wanted to say that the Institute for Small Islands is starting a legal advice center for climate and environmental justice issues. So if you would like to get in contact for support, advice, exactly in the line of what Andy is talking about, and we're going to try to, you know, I'm going to try to wrangle Andy to give some advice too. So please get in contact. We put the email address, smallislands100@gmail.com. And it's www.smallislandsinstitute.org. And I wanted to thank you as well, the audience, for your wonderful, devoted, attentive questions, comments. I mean, they were just pouring out. And there was so much love for all of the panelists and everything that they were saying, and for the blessings. And the blessings got so many comments. And it's just, again, it's a paw raising experience to see the reception for this, because in many areas, this kind of talk, this kind of knowledge is not very well received. You need to understand that. There is a lot of hostility towards Indigenous peoples all over the world right now. And we can look at our brothers and sisters in Ukraine right now fighting against Russian invasion and the demolition of their cultures. So let's take a moment to think of all of the environmental defenders. I have 1 minute to go. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Take care.
Thank you so much again to our amazing speakers and moderators. That was such an inspiring and insightful panel discussion. I think your words really touched me today, and I'm sure it motivated others into action. I do believe that we need to continue opening spaces for these kinds of sessions that amplify the voice of Indigenous, so that they can continue to share their knowledge. So I'm so happy that I was able to be present for this. Thank you so much. The next session that we have scheduled on today's agenda is Fairy Tales, the Triumphant Trials of Transitioning Water Transport Away from Fossil Fuels. This session is sponsored by the Island Institute, which takes place in about half an hour, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, New York, 8 p.m. BST London time, and 5 a.m. AEST Sydney time. I would just like to also invite you to follow us on Instagram @_Island Innovation. And again, thank you so much, everyone, for watching. And I hope to see you at the other sessions. Enjoy the rest of the Virtual Island Summit.
Bye, thank you.